And I know you talk a lot about helping people think and intellectual stuff. What do you think's going on in my brain as a Christian when I'm singing that song with full passion? Life starts when the church ends and Jesus can't save you. I'm singing this as a Christian, in my car or whatever. But I'm not thinking about what it is. I'm not thinking about what the artist is trying to convey to me.
I mean, is it possible you could be disassociating with, listening and consciously processing what is being programmed into you? Because I do believe that I don't particularly do this because I in my opinion, that I understand how susceptible my subconscious brain is to this. So I don't try to listen to things that I feel like are gonna program me subconsciously. But a lot of people turn off their conscious programmer and they kind of go on autopilot when they listen to music. They're not really listening to music to think. I think all of us are unique in that we like to think. We have big questions about reality. We have big questions about the nature of existence. And a lot of people aren't listening to music for that. A lot of people are listening to music to escape that, really, because the weight of that for a lot of people is way too much existentially. So they're just like, let me just listen to something about bitches and hoes and getting money. Because at the end of the day, they can relate to that. They can channel that. They can use that for motivation and their sort of everyday life. You talking about or pontificating or speculating about the nature of God sounds good in theory, but doesn't really help them too much if it's not putting food on the table, if it's not, putting their children in school and giving them a better life. So I feel like you were probably disassociating with what you were sort of being programmed with and what you were actually listening to and how you were enjoying it. That's why I say a lot of this is just a dopamine chase. We all have our sort of dopamine chase. I think hip hop for me was and has been a big one. Now it's sort of creative storytelling and getting into that. But just this idea of creative dopamine shots are always something that I've been chasing. And the underlying programming, whatever that actually is, a lot of times I don't even care what that is. And I know that about myself. So I'm really careful about what I passively listen to.
Yeah, I think you're hitting the nail on the head with the disassociation there. Because when you're saying that, I was also thinking about watching porn as a Christian and never really thinking I'm nailing the nails into Jesus even more. You totally disassociate. Go ahead, Buck.
Yeah. So for me, I don't know if this is the greatest example, but this to me is a perfect example to emphasize this point of disassociation. I don't know if you guys ever been to like a corporate work party, company party, or just the club, and the song that comes on, "It Ain't No Fun." If the homies can't
have none, it ain't no
motherfucking chick in that room is fucking singing that song. Perfect lyrics to the fucking window, to the walls, right? To the sweat.
Yeah.
And it's like, but if you actually listen to the lyrics, like there's, as far as I'm aware, and it's a great song, I'm not dissing the lyrics, but I'm like, I would be outraged if I were a woman. I mean, it's totally derogatory. You know what I'm saying? It's like Nate Dogg's verse, like, I'll call you when I want some, and then
some of us are probably thinking about the Chris Rock comedy routine where he talks about rappers talking about bitches and hoes, and he asked the woman like, "Yo, how could you listen to that?" And her response is, "He ain't talking about me.
He ain't talking about me." Yeah.
Oh shit. Yeah. Well, there you go. Even
I got holes in different area codes.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm looking around going like, all right.
But I'll say this, Mike. I was still in the Christian community strong when that song came out. And so I know very many Christians who did not just hand wave away that line. There were people who were ready to use that as proof that Jay-Z was part of the Illuminati. There were other people who, even if they didn't buy that conspiracy, they still thought that line was over the line. And so I don't know why you might have been able to not take offense to it, but I know very many Christians who took that personally. Like that was a shot against them and their faith.
A sign I was not a real Christian, I'm sure.
Yeah, just like how.
They don't be taking it seriously enough. It's too.
Mm,
I don't think the Christians, a lot of them, really even believe it. Because if they did, they would act different. Christians wouldn't know about Jay-Z and Little Kim and LL Cool J if they, if they really believed, if they kept the Sabbath holy and wasn't of the word and all the rest of the fucking Dr. Seuss in that
mm,
book. They don't believe it or go by it at all. And it ain't just
yeah.
Christians either. It's the Muslims. It's all.
Yeah.
You know,
I remember when I was in the church, just like how Be Good said, like Jay-Z and Beyonce being devil worshippers and part of the Illuminati was a huge thing. A
Yep.
huge thing. You know what I mean? Like almost every single Sunday, people will be telling us, oh, Jay-Z is spreading demonic messages through the lyrics. I remember when YouTube first came out. This was during the years when YouTube first came out, and there were pastors putting their whole sermons on YouTube. Back then it was only 10 minutes. So I would see like 7 parts of their entire sermon. You know what I mean? Trying to play Jay-Z lyrics in reverse. And he's saying, he said 666, murder Jesus, and I'm like, bro, you're just playing something backwards. You know what I mean? Back then I was very, very skeptical about all that. And I remember when Beyonce had her alter ego, Sasha Fierce, and they were like, oh, Jay-Z introduced her into the demonic realm and Sasha Fierce is now like a satanic succubus.
Right, talk about that spirit cooking and all that. There's a whole rabbit hole you can go down with that conspiracy theory.
Yeah, exactly. And I was all like, man, y'all. Even when I think that was during the time in my Christian faith where I was like, yeah, there are a lot of people in this that are insane, bro. Because what the hell are y'all talking about? It's just a song, what I mean? It's just a song. But everyone, back then, they were on a Rebecca Brown kick. I remember Rebecca Brown was a woman who came out with a very, very popular book and said that, Pokemon was Satan, Digimon is Satan, yoga is devil worship, all that. She was on all of that, and that spread. Yu-Gi-Oh, anime, and like all of that was the devil and Satan. Vegetarianism, she even put that on the list. You know what I mean? So it was really big in these communities to spread that. I think she even came to my church, and I'm like, y'all, this woman is insane. She has problems. She literally said that someone opened up her brain and they saw demons dancing around in it. She is insane. Why are we listening to this woman? You know what I mean? But it spread throughout the community, and I think that was the first time I became very, very concerned of Black people believing in anything, or like being in Christianity and believing in being gullible to believe in anything. It really concerned me. I mean, I think that's probably what kickstarted my entire deconstruction journey. Just that entire era. Where it's like no one's being skeptical about this. This woman literally said that there's demons dancing in her brain. Y'all believe that? You know what I mean? So. It really, so that was a big thing back then, especially Jay-Z being Satan, a wizard man,
I read that book, and the advice, and the best advice in that book is, if you're ever fighting with the werewolf, don't shoot it and kill it, because it'll change back into a human and you'll get arrested for murder. That whole thing was just totally insane, totally crazy.
Pretty good.
That whole era was insane.
I remember my mom telling me that if she had heard this from like Pat Robertson, if you play some music backwards, you're getting a demonic message. And of course it's of course it had to, how else could you explain it? Like, yeah, it's Satan, obviously. It's totally Satan. Yeah, there was a lot of bizarre stuff. I was just thinking, thinking about stuff we sing, going back to what Graydon said about sort of like disassociated. I remember one time singing a song, you and me together fighting for our love, and it was super popular on the radio. And my brother pointed out to me one day, because my brother wasn't a Christian, he deconstructed very early. He said, "You realize that song's You and Me Together Fighting for Our Love this is a gay artist, and he's talking about sex with a man and stuff." I'm like, really? Like, I didn't know what I was singing. And because you just don't think it's got the lyrics are cool and the beat's cool and it's on the top 40. Back in my day, I'm much older than all of you, I think, by a lot. Our family was not wealthy. Like I didn't own cassettes at the time. You know, when I was a teenager, CDs that I don't even think they just barely come out maybe in the early 80s. I didn't own that. If I wanted to listen to music, I was on Kiss FM. Like that's how I couldn't afford anything else. So it's definitely a different era. Does anyone else have any thoughts on that whole disassociative thing with what Brady said about people in his community where like, hey, wait a minute, this is, he's part of the Illuminati, this is satanic, or, he's trashing Jesus. Does anybody else have that experience, or am I more in the bigger group that just sings whatever song comes along and doesn't even think about it?
I mean, a lot of kids in my church were disassociating, just like how Grayton said. We would sing or rap all these terrible lyrics about robbing people and getting bitches and hoes and sex and drugs and murder and everything like that. But then we'll be at church Sunday morning, like, Louie, Louie, and singing all the church songs and everything like that. It was a lot of disassociation, what I mean, where we'll say, oh, God knows our heart. A lot of that was happening. So yeah, we especially for the young people, we would love like the secular music, but then go to church, which is why when I was in that phase, the Christian rap phase, we would use secular beats, but just change the lyrics to Christian. Like that whole who's that guy, Fetty Wap. When Fetty Wap came out with baby, won't you come my way? You had a lot of Christian rappers saying, Jesus, won't you come my way? yeah, we would remix it all the time.
Obscene. That's obscene to do that to Fetty Wap. Come on. Those people need to repent.
Wow. Oh, definitely. But yeah, that was a thing back then. We used to still disassociate all the time. I'm not sure if anyone else has the same type of story, but that's what we were doing as kids.
Like Kids Bop for Jesus, where they take like the regular rap song and like
put Jesus in there somehow, some way. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Man, look, when it comes to rap music, like, man, a lot of times, man, black folk, we gonna vibe out. They're like, I think I think the whole, like, for the most part, it's like, man, they believe in Jesus Christ, they go to church on Sunday, but after that, man, they turned up all week.
All week.
So whatever to the window, to the wall all week, and then on Sunday, put your Sunday's best on, go in there and get your worship, get
your worship on.
Praise on.
Wow. Yeah, I would have been on my judgmental tip back then. Like, if there wasn't time for no one way on Sunday and then some other way on Monday through Saturday.
They call them lukewarm. The
lukewarm Christians. Yeah, there it is. Lukewarm Christians.
Playing with Jesus.
Yeah,
but see, for me, well, go ahead, Bob.
No, I was gonna say that used to be a big thing. We used to say, "Oh, y'all lukewarm Christians, y'all not on fire for Christ." They used to say that all the time. They'd be like, "If you deny me in front of the world, I'll deny you in front of my Father." They used to tell us that all the time.
Oh, they love that shit. Boy.
Oh man, they love that. Yeah, but yeah. Well, my bad. Be good. What you were saying?
I was gonna say, for me, I don't know if it's as much disassociation as it is. I came from a place where you lived the lyrics, like, you know what I mean? Like, or at least you, to the best of your ability, like it was your culture. And so for somebody who was able to listen to it and distance themselves from it, it was almost like, okay, you're a tourist. You're not really from here. But if you're from here, like, don't just be singing this and you ain't really about this. Like, what's your life really like? And that was me as a non-Christian and as a Christian. So I didn't have a category I did have a category. The person that was just a listener and you could sing things that didn't really apply to you. It was like, okay, you're not in the inner sanctum. You're not in the inner circle of this thing. And so I don't know. I think even as a Christian, I would have been looking like, oh, if you can sing that says something about where you are in relation to the truth that's being, or the idea that's being presented here. But that may have just been me taking it way too serious too.
No, I think a lot of people did that. And I'm just flashing on something that was really, to me, was very important. I could sing stuff that was about like maybe sex or rock and roll or stuff that wasn't wholesome because to me, it was sort of could be in the fantasy realm, but I would not sing anything that would be like Highway to Hell or something satanic or something that would open the door to a demon. So somehow in my mind, I had this pride about not listening to hard rock and anything. So the bizarre thing about this, I was just telling this to Dr. Kip the other day. I'm like discovering all these great songs like AC/DC and Black Sabbath. Me and Steven get down to this stuff, and it's like we'll turn it up real loud. And I was singing. In fact, I put the lyrics on to Highway to Hell, and me and Steven were singing that Highway to Hell. And I'm thinking in my Christian days, I could never do that. Never. That would have been totally opening the door to Satan. It would have been so bad. So it's really bizarre to me. Now, the positive side is there's a lot of great music out there that I can now listen to for like the first time.
There's stuff that I'm listening to now that I would have never listened to as a Christian. I'm curious. I know Graydon's got to get ready to go, and so do I. But Graydon, a minute ago, you talked about even today not listening to certain things because you don't want to dwell on certain things. Could you speak more about that? Because you're not approaching it from the superstitious angle that Michael's talking about. Oh, he said, hell, I can't listen to that. But what do you use as your grid even today to make you say, like, nah, I draw the line at listening to X, Y, or Z?
I think that's a fascinating question. I think it comes from the perspective of understanding that people in very high and well-funded places spent trillions of dollars figuring out how to program people. And I think there is a well-funded industry in subconsciously programming people to certain, buying habits, certain behavioral habits, and that sort of funnels people into certain lanes and certain outcomes in society. I think it's, for better or worse, I think it's one of the things that have been sort of proven throughout the last at least 100 years that you can program people to behave in whatever way you really like through TV, through music, through movies, the whole nine. You can desensitize whole populations for things. And so for me, the last time I listened to the radio was before I went to the military. And I remember coming back from Iraq and basically turning on the radio the first time. And I couldn't believe what was on the radio. I was just like, why are all the songs terrible? And I really felt like that. I'm not saying this to shit on these dudes because I'm sure they meant well and they had a hit record and I've never had a hit record. So who am I to judge? But you guys remember that song from Smiles and South Star?
Hey, me,
with the high pitched voice.
you think is going on?
Yeah, that shit, right? So that was popping when I came back from deployment, right? That shit was fucking hot. And I know it was a hot song, but in my mind, coming from like cannabis rap, right? I'm coming from, Rakim and KRS-One and Cool G, right? And all these super lyricists and shit, right? Boot Camp Click and all these dudes, Sean P. And I'm like, what the hell is this? I was so offended that this was representing hip hop that I was like, I'm done. And I basically stopped listening to the radio altogether. I don't think I went back since listening to the radio. And it wasn't really because of that song. There were other songs. That is the song I remember the most from that time that kind of made me like, nah, I can't do it. Because I kind of knew what was going on. I was being defanged. I felt like there was a certain fight in me that I feel like the powers that be wanted to clamp down on, wanted to tamper down on, wanted to dull the sharpness of that blade. And I'm glad my tag team partner, Tombstone the Deadman, is in there because he often talks about this from an ex-Islamic perspective, right? We all come from the ex-Christian perspective. Y'all should get him in here. He was the first atheist rapper I ever knew. Before I even was burst onto the scene, there was Tombstone the Deadman out of Baltimore. And
Wow.
like that was, you know what I mean? But it wasn't circulated because that wasn't what he was just talking about, but he talked about it. And there were other sort of rappers going around who were sort of experimenting in the space. But I just think that when you talk about the sort of notion of how people are programmed, it became very clear to me that I was being conditioned for a certain set of, or series of outcomes in society by listening and watching certain things. Didn't have anything to do with religion, didn't have anything to do with, you know, my beliefs in a supernatural creator being or anything like that. I just realized that it once you can print money into existence, then you can pay to study people and to alter behavior, because you can just spend indefinitely on studying how to do that effectively.
Well, that leads, I know you got to leave here in a sec, Grandin, but could you segue into, you named a few things, and before you had said you really did wanted to answer this question about like the top 5, the ones that really inspired you or that you think are so great, and you just rattled off a few names. Was that your list, or is there any other thing you want to sort of throw in there?
I mean, if I had to pull up my list, I did write them down just so I could remember. But I would say if I had to pick 5 MCs on some like these top 5, dead or alive, if the aliens come and they're like, we trying to battle y'all right now, we're from Mars. And it's like, all right, 5 Earthlings that's going to defend the Martian lyrical invasion. Number 1, Master Ace. I feel like Master Ace is a lyrical red belt. He is a grandmaster. He's one of the most lyrical Titan dudes I've ever heard of. Number 2, Sean P. If they get past Sean P, we're probably screwed anyway. So it's like, you know, whatever. Number 3, Rakim. I mean, Rakim is going to be the dude who, in my opinion, is going to be our sort of Reed Richards. He's going to sort of come up with the solution sort of thing. You know what I'm saying? Of course, we got Eminem. We need somebody crazy and psycho and able to do something. And then MF Doom, right? Like, how are you going to get past Doom? So those 5 against the Martian or the Venus or the Pluto lyrical invasion, I got those 5 dudes against really anybody. And I know there's a lot of fans of a lot of people out there. I'm not disrespecting them by not having them on that list or nothing like that. But I feel like if you ask me my life on the line, lyrical dudes that I just know can absolutely annihilate from opening to end game, it's those guys.
Nice.
Nice.
Excellent. Hey, has PC put in the link to the stream that you're going to? You said you're going to do some singing.
Put it in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah. I was actually going to probably continue the hip hop conversation over there. I mean, talking about top 5 kind of got me motivated. And
yeah. Okay. So what I'd like to do, because my baby's getting crazy here, I would like to send the whole audience, everybody here, over to raid your stream, and we can shut this one down in a few minutes. So, everybody, let's close this down with a
word of prayer.
With a prayer, yeah. I know. With a prayer, dear, you're going to pray to Stephen. Dear Stephen, grant us our wishes. We love you. You're the perfect baby. You're sinless. You're perfect. Yeah. So if you want to go next, Brady, you want to throw out? It doesn't have to be 5, but some of the top lyricists or people that you think
this is
are
a hip hop conversation. It at least has to be top 5. So I'll rattle off my top 5. And my list changes, which I think most people's list changes from week to week. But my top 5 would be Royce the 5'9", a guy named Pep Love from the Hieroglyphics, Rakim, and then my last 2 slots would probably be maybe Busta and Redman. So
that's a great list.
Yeah, it's a very good list.
Excellent. Bar, you want to be up next?
So I'm thinking about, I've been thinking about this the whole time. And so for me, I want to do like these not my top 5 greatest rappers of all time, but this is like, if you sat me down and said like who do you listen to on a daily basis, or like what actually like drives you to rap, I'm gonna say these 5 just because these are the ones that's like my style, kind of like, it's like you can hear bits and pieces of them when I rap. So it's not no particular order or nothing like that. I'm just So number 1, is Lil Wayne. He is in my actual all-time top 5, but like this is one of my biggest inspiration because I'm a mixtape baby. I listen to all the dedications. I mean, front to back, back to front. So
yeah, all dedication.
Lil Wayne, and I know Lil Wayne is number 1. Number 2, because I'm from down south, I'm from Memphis, I gotta go Young Dolph. Just because I grew up watching him. He from the same neighborhood as me, so I say Young Dolph. Number 3 is, of course, the what they call it, the one that took the throne once Young Dolph passed away. I'm gonna say Key Glock, number 3. Number 4 is my original partner in crime. He would have been here with us tonight. Blatant Blatheus. That's who literally got me into rap. This exact same thing happened where like I met him on a stream, and then I was like, "You ever thought about doing music?" He was like, "I know how to rap." And I said, "Well, I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna sing you." And I literally started rapping. We started rapping at the same time, and like I gotta put him on the list as well, like because I literally listen to him, and that like motivates me to keep going. So I got Blatant Blatheus, and the 5th one is I said Lil Wayne, Young Dolph, Key Glock, Blatant, and number 5 is
It's always hard.
yeah. I say Kendrick. Lamar. Just because when I listen to that Sing About Me, Dying the Third song, I cry every time.
Yeah.
And that literally, I've been trying to like listen to that and pull. I listen to that song all the time just to try to pull all the inspiration I can from it. So those are like the top 5 that I listen to that like I try to emulate them. I'm the younger crowd. I ain't number 27, so it's like that's who I pull from, like them. And that's it.
Can I go next?
Right. Sure, you're up.
Because I don't want to go last.
I'm sorry to do this, guys. I got to dip.
Hey,
All right, buddy.
have a good one, man.
All right, y'all will be hearing from me. Mike, thanks for doing this.
You're welcome. Thanks for joining me, Brady. Have a good one.
So here's why I didn't want to go last is because I just like I'm overwhelmed with thinking of who's influenced me, and I can't quite label it down, but I do have my top 5 favorite hip hop albums. So I'll just list those off and just give you kind of an idea, although this isn't necessarily the inspiration for my lyrics, but these are the albums that like if I was stranded on an island, I would have them with me. Number 1, Mobb Deep, The Infamous, obviously. Number 2, Camp Lo, Uptown Saturday Night. Number 3, Midnight Marauders, Tribe Called Quest. Number 4, The Awakening by Lord Finesse. And then number 5, Diggable Planets, Reachin'. I just realized those are all East Coast.
That's a good list. Those are dope albums.
Yep. I've been trying to get more into my East Coast.
Yeah, no, not bad at all.
So Lord Finesse, especially on the production, that guy is definitely probably one of my favorite producers for sure. Havoc, obviously. All right, cool.
All right, Brain Freeze or Passage. Which one of you all wants to go next?
I'll go. I'll do it. I would say my top 5. These are the ones that the lyrics of people that I can remember the most. I think because they struck me and they stay in my head a lot. I will go with Nas. SD Nas. I'm surprised no one has said him yet, but Nas, Andre 3000. Like Outkast is they're stamped legendary, and like Andre 3000. I would say Big Boy is a great rapper, and I'm never gonna say Big Boy is not a good rapper. He's a great rapper, and people sleep on him. But I think Andre 3000 is just like on a huge level. I'm also gonna say Lil Wayne. Yeah, I mean, I was listening to Carter 1, Carter 2, Carter 3, all the dedications to just today. I Can't Feel My Face. I've been listening to all of them. Yeah, I mean, I'm also gonna say Lil Wayne. The first person that I even remember was Pac, so I got to put Pac on my list. Not just as a rapper, but just as an artist overall. Yeah, I mean, I think Park was an artist. And the last one, I would say, yeah, it's just like how the last one is always hard. Yeah, the last one is always hard. I would say it's a tie between Kendrick and Lupe Fiasco. The two. Those are two of my favorites. It used to be J. Cole, but you can't buy out of battles, bro. You can't bow out of battles, J. Cole. So now, yeah, I gotta take you up my top 5. But between Kendrick and Lupe.
All right, sounds good. Last but not least, Passage.
I'd say Papoose.
Papoose.
Let's see who else. GQ. Last one. There, Sean Price. Like one of my absolute favorites of all time.
We missed 2 of those, right? Did anybody else miss 2 of those?
I think I did.
It's Papoose, GQ, Sean Price, and who are the other 2?
Pharoah Monch and
yeah, Pharaoh.
Who's the last one?
you faded out on the last answer. It's a mystery. It's a mystery.
Elzai.
Oh, Elzai. Elzai's
okay.
Oh, Elzai. Yeah. Elzai's dope.
Well, gentlemen, I can't thank you enough for joining me tonight. This has been amazing. I know there's a lot of fans out there. A lot of people were happy to see this group get together, and so I was glad to be part of helping to bring it together. Go over, if you guys still want to continue this discussion, over to Graydon Square's channel. Jump on over there and give him some love. Continue the talk. Audience, thank you all so much. Thanks for sub to all the different channels. Everybody, we're shutting this one down. Adios, everybody.
Peace.
Peace.
Love.